What's Universal saying about a new Doolittle movie? What book will they probably base Doolittle 2 on? We'll also talk about some of the reasons this movie was a flop and what the studio can do to avoid all the same mistakes in the future. Don't swipe or click away, because here is Dr. Dolittle 2, First Look. With a $175 million budget, Doolittle was supposed to be a smash hit. It had the great actors, it had the money, it had the crew, but it still didn't impress audiences. Right after the movie came out, the reviews poured in. And boy, oh boy, were they ruthless. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a brutal 14% on the tomato meter. IMDb was a little generous, and they gave the movie 5.6/1. But still, from the first movie called Dr. Dolittle, which came out in 1967, not much has changed. Even the one done by Eddie Murphy, a comedy god, could be rated as mediocre at best. From the looks of things, it seems like there's a Doolittle curse. But still, Doolittle had the potential to be turned into a franchise. If the Dr. Dolittle movie from 1998 could be turned into a 3-part franchise, including several other movies, then why couldn't they turn the RDJ Doolittle into a franchise? After all, Universal was hoping to do this, and from the looks of it, seemed like they were really invested in making it a success. Sure, they made a few mistakes with the first movie, but it seems like the kids loved it. And part of the reason the movie didn't make more at the box office was because of the reduced theater capacities. Even great movies suffered, so RDJ's Doolittle was no exception. That being said, if the movie were to go forward, what could we expect to see in Dr. Dolittle 2? Well, there are about a dozen more Doolittle books to choose from, so there's plenty of material to comb through. That's right, Dr. Doolittle's character was created way back in World War I. This is when the author of the original book, Hugh Lofting, was fighting in the First World War. In order to have something exciting to send to his children, aside from a dull and boring letter, Lofting created Dr. Dolittle, a doctor that could talk to animals. After the war ended, Lofting saw the opportunity to publish his books, and in 1920, the first Dr. Dolittle was out. After the ensuing decades, over a dozen books and more short stories were written by the author. The books grew in popularity, and soon, everyone smashed that like button just like you should if you haven't already. But no, in all seriousness, soon everyone in the world knew who Dr. Dolittle was. If there was a prequel, we have yet to hear of Universal greenlighting such a project. Then they could draw inspiration from the rest of the books in the series. In fact, the movie story isn't inspired by the first book, but instead it's the Voyages of Doctor Dolittle, the second book that the movie is based on. Speaking of which, we wanted to talk about some of the things that Doolittle could fix going forward.
Is very bad.
If we look at the plot, we see a bunch of talking animals, a veterinarian that can talk to animals, and a mission to retrieve a forbidden fruit that can help cure the disease plaguing Queen Victoria. It doesn't seem too complicated, so it should have been perfect for a young audience. It could have been exciting and fun, the adventures could have been more thrilling, but instead, we had animals telling a bunch of bad jokes. If there ever is a sequel, then this movie could invest a little more effort in writing a thrilling script, as well as hiring some comedic talent that's going to turn the "ouch, my berries joke into something funnier.
Oh! Ooh, that's gotta hurt. Ow, my berries!
Speaking of the animals and their jokes, there's something else people have been pointing out, and that's the voice acting. Sure, the cast includes names like Antonio Banderas, Michael Sheen, Rami Malek, John Cena, Emma Thompson, Tom Holland, even Ralph Fiennes. But even they weren't enough to save the movie. Looking at the movie, it seemed like the voices belonged to some other characters. For example, what business does Rami Malek have playing a gorilla? On the outside, he looks big and scary, but when he opens his mouth, it immediately disconnects us from the character. And another thing, when it comes to CGI, quality trumps quantity. Of course, there are some great CGI scenes in the movie, like when Doolittle is speaking to Polynesia, but there are some god-awful ones, which include the time Tommy rode the giraffe before jumping on the ship, and the tiger's fur. So, in the sequel, we think they should include fewer animals and create better visual effects. We don't believe we would be saying this, but RDJ's performance looked dull. Is he a bad actor? Heck no! RDJ is one of the best in Hollywood. So far, he has played 2 British characters. One was Sherlock and the other was Chaplin. So we didn't think the accent would be a problem. Wanting to experiment with a different British accent, Downey's Doolittle was Welsh. Not only were the lines incomprehensible, but most of the time, we felt like it wasn't RDJ who was saying those things. So maybe he could stick with the accent he used in Sherlock from now on. So let's assume that Universal went ahead and made a second Doolittle movie. Which book could they base the story on? Well, if this Doolittle was based on the second book in the series, then why not go in chronological order and create the second movie based on the third book in this series, Dr. Dolittle Zoo? Just as Dr. Dolittle comes home from the sea's adventure, he starts adopting more animals. Before you know it, the man's formed a zoo in his house. If this is the plot, then movie number 2 would pick up right where it left off. In the book, after the doctor sets his house in order, his zoo starts growing. He even includes a home for crossbred dogs and the famous club for rodents. But unlike the modern zoos, where animals are locked up in a cage, Doolittle Zoo is different. Here, there are no cages. The animals are left to roam free, and in addition to that, they all came to the zoo of their own free will, which means that they're free to leave whenever they want. The doctor, with the help of one of the dog detectives named Kling, will solve a mystery. Throughout the book, we get to meet a lot of the rodents and hear their stories. So, in the movie, maybe we can make a connection to the mice in Dr. Doolittle's house. Or they can go the route that Dr. Dolittle 3 took back in 2006 and introduce the daughter of Dr. Dolittle. This would solve one of the main problems with the movie, Tommy Stubbins. Many have said that the character is very bland and boring. With the doctor's daughter in the picture, we can move away from this character and introduce someone that's going to bring a lot more excitement and fun to the movie. We just like to say that we're not attacking Harry Collett for his performance. The young actor did a fantastic job portraying Tommy, but the character itself couldn't draw us in. With all of these possible plots, RDJ seems dead set on keeping the same cast if they ever make a new movie. The news was reported by insider Daniel Rickman, who claimed that Robert wanted to keep the old cast in the sequel, and these actors will voice their original characters. All of this sounds great, but will they manage to convince Universal, who is trying to recuperate from a 90-minute flop? If you ask us, the only way the production house would agree to do a sequel is if the budget was significantly reduced. This means less screen time for RDJ and less CGI. On a related note, do you think they should do a sequel to Doolittle just to see if they can restore the Doctor's reputation? You can tell us in the comment section below. If you like more videos like these, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of them. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.